that NASA is thinking about going to Uranus in 2030, and they're planning on probing it deeper than they ever have while looking for gas and heavy elements.
Get out of here.
That's the headline, and those sorts of jokes just go over well.
They're just making it easy on you, right? Hey everybody, Frank Peterson, frankpetersonbroker.com. Hope you're all doing really well. And we have another episode of our show today. Hope you're excited to see it. I'd really appreciate it if you like this show, give it a thumbs up, give it a like, comment, share it with everybody who you think would be interested. I'd be happy to have more people come on the show. We do this every single week. And if you're new to this channel, make sure to subscribe. So let's go ahead and jump right into it. We have our guest, Mr. Rich Artman. And Rich, here you are. Welcome to the show. How you doing?
Hi, Frank. Thanks so much for having me today. I really do appreciate it.
Absolutely. I'm really happy to have you on. So Rich is a managing broker of our office Inland Real Estate here in Yorkville. And he's been 25, 30 years of experience in real estate. He's a real deal. And he also has an interesting side hustle, which a lot of you might know him already. And you might know him even better that way, which he runs about, 17 trivias a week?
We're up to about 20 now, yeah.
Yeah, holy cow. And then... So doing that and DJing and karaoke and you name it. So really happy to have you on. How you doing?
I'm very well, thank you. I love the new format that you've got. The shows look great so far. I'm happy to be a part of this one.
Well, I appreciate it. I definitely appreciate it.
Yeah.
So just want to give a quick introduction about yourself, maybe some highlights about yourself. Just let everybody know who you are.
Sure. Excuse me. I started off in real estate over 30 years ago now, coming up on my 34th year, I guess. I started off as a leasing agent in the apartment industry, became an apartment manager after a while. Then I got into land development, which was really probably the most exciting part of my career. I was involved with developing over 50 different subdivisions, both residential, industrial, commercial. I've got a couple of roads named after my kids, which they're pretty excited about now as they've grown a little bit older. They are happy to know that. And then I got into real estate brokerage when our real estate development kind of started to slow down. They needed to find some place for me, and brokerage seemed like the next logical progression since we were already doing so much work in the Kendall County area. We opened up an office out there, and that's been about, I guess, close to 20 years now. That I've been out in the Kendall County market and surrounding counties, I might add, selling land in apartments, you name it, leasing homes. I've done it all, really have. And so, being with the company that I've been with now for this period of time, I've become one of the elder statesmen of the company, and it's great because I'm afforded a lot more information. I get a lot more contacts. I get a lot more business done as a result of that because of my connections that I have.
Yeah, you're kind of a bigwig at Inland nowadays, right?
I guess if you want to say that, I wouldn't call it that. I'm a small wig compared to the other big wigs, but at least I got a wig.
Oh, you got a wig, yeah.
At least I got a wig, right?
Yeah. There's a lot of big names out there out at the Oakbrook office, and they, just in case everybody doesn't know this, I mean, they manage like $60 billion in real estate, something like that?
Well, the quick synopsis on the company is that we have over $30 billion in holdings. We are in everything from, we're at any given week, we may be the second or third largest shopping center owner in North America. We have properties now that are hotels, student housing, in Canada, in all parts of the United States. Mm-hmm. And so the company has grown to be quite large, and we're certainly a player on the stage, if you will, at the International Council of Shopping Centers. It's interesting. A fellow named Lou Quillisi and I, Lou was in our acquisitions department some 20 years ago. We went down to Las Vegas, opened up a booth at the ICSC show. And what was interesting about that was that it was a big deal for us to buy a 8-foot table to set up at that place and kind of hawk our wares there. And when we came back, everybody thought it was kind of fluffy and was too much. The whole thing, the whole trip maybe cost $5,000, including all the stuff that we did. Now, Inland has grown to such proportion that we literally take up about a quarter of the space at ICSC. Our booth costs $1 million to buy and install every year. Now they save it and they pack it away and they put it back, but it's literally like an indoor office building inside of this place. And that's where our company has been able to gain real traction by putting together so many of their retail deals with the main retailers across the country. And I'm talking about just about every single national retail is in one of our spots. So it's funny how the time 20 years ago, it was such a big deal for us to spend even $5,000, and now we're spending $1 million just to set up a booth on this thing. It's been pretty incredible, but it's a great run. And that's a great show. If anybody ever has a chance to get out there, it's absolutely amazing what you can learn, what you can see when they have that every year in Vegas.
Yeah, definitely. And yeah, just so everybody knows, ICSC is like the big national trade show for all the national retailers, and they all come together once a year out in Vegas. And yeah, they have really, really big displays, and they go all out with elaborate shows. And I've never had a chance to go yet. I've never been invited, Rich. But maybe one of these years.
For a few years myself.
There's another one.
This year.
There's another one that takes place in October, and it's in Chicago, out by Navy Pier. So they do it out in the Midwest version of it every October as well. So yeah, a lot of big names.
That is nowhere near in comparison to what goes on in Vegas. Vegas is a spectacle, really.
Yeah, I've actually never been to Vegas. Can you believe that?
I just got back. It was snowing while I was there, so
I heard the weather with me. I heard it snowing in Vegas, and they had snow on the ground, and it stuck for a little bit.
That's
crazy.
Yeah,
that barely ever happens.
They had a dusting, and they called it a blizzard. It was actually pretty funny.
Probably closed the schools, right?
Oh, right. Yes, they did. Yeah. Yep.
Oh my gosh, that's crazy.
So that's kind of my career in a nutshell with Inland, and it's been a great company for me to be at. I've learned so much. I've been afforded so many different opportunities, and one of the great things about my time with the company has been, I guess, helping other individuals to achieve their dreams, from buying their dream home or dream lot, or having a developer who needed that right piece of property so that he could go on to make his money, and so on and so forth, or even fellows like you who I've helped to kind of get to where they're going. And Frank, you're a dynamo nowadays. You are you're talked about all over the place. People really like you. But again, from my perspective, it's always been great to be able to help participate, be a part of somebody's betterment, their personal achievements. I love it. It makes my day go, really.
Yeah. Well, I really appreciate it too, and I appreciate you giving me the chance. Just being able to come here. Inland was really a really great fit for me because I was able to work on the residential and the commercial, and kind of the sky's the limit. If I were to go to CBRE or NAI Hiffman or some of those other names, they'd just pigeonhole me into saying you're just doing office leasing, for example. And if I had this other big opportunity, I just have to hand it off to the other team, and that didn't really sit very well for me. Especially being out in our tertiary market, kind of where we are, which is like the far west burbs, if you will. Mm-hmm. Kind of have to generalize and work with a number of different products and asset types rather than kind of specializing into one specific area, at least for the first few years to start. That's kind of how I've seen it and going into the market. And so yeah, absolutely awesome opportunity.
There's nothing wrong with the CREBs or whatever, BEs, whatever, I can't think, sorry, of the worlds out there. I got a little tongue twisted. There's nothing wrong with them. But you've got to be the right fit for what they're doing. And the time that you came in and joined our team, you were relatively new, but in the last few years, you have really blossomed. And it's truly a testament to your hard work. When I brought you on, I knew there was something special about you. I could sense that you had the ability and that you had the mindset for what it takes to do this job. And I've just been blown away at how hard you work and how productive and fruitful your efforts have been. And I know there have been times when it's this, everybody, I experience it still to this day, when you go for a couple of months without a closing or things don't seem like they're happening. And all of a sudden in one day, you'll get 8 contracts. It's just how it is. You never know what's coming out of left field in this business. And that's kind of what makes it interesting. No 2 days are ever the same, ever.
Yeah, it's feast and famine in this business. And you got to be able to, go through the droughts in order to really make, when the good times come, you got to make sure that you can be prepared to to hold on to that and
Right.
spread it out over time, because you're not getting a paycheck every week.
No,
You're
that's
getting a
how
paycheck
that's
every
how this
2 weeks.
business is. But when you get paid, you get a nice big chunk of change usually, and especially if you're doing the bigger deals, it'll certainly help you to last through those famine times, if you will.
Definitely. Yeah. I mean, sometimes I'll get pushback from clients. They'll say, like, oh my gosh, I can't believe that this is the check that you're getting for this deal or whatever. I'm like, well, you need to think about all of the work that I do behind the scenes, and every single thing that I do, every single phone call, email, everything like that, following up like a machine, and
Right.
60 hours a week, and it really adds up. And then you have to factor in all the other deals that don't end up happening.
Sure.
And they all kind of have to work out. I gotta, pay the mortgage and put food on the table and stuff, and
Right.
so
Yep.
it's interesting.
Yeah,
That's for
I
sure.
just had a nice big closing the other day, and the owner kind of looked at me when I got the check, and I said, "You do realize I've been working on this for 5 months now.
Yeah.
That I have literally worked on this at least a couple hours a day, at least just on this deal, and I've got 20 other listings I'm supposed to be working on as well. So it's a time balance for us in trying to mitigate the time to be best served for what it is that we're looking to achieve for our clients, and it really is client based. There's times when some clients feel like they're being a little slighted because not a lot's happening, and sometimes that's a function of their price or their inability to come to terms with what the reality is, meaning that they expect to have a certain dollar amount, they want a certain dollar amount, they think that the trees that they put onto the property add value, when other people see the trees as a detriment and are valueless and actually are going to cost them money to remove once they buy the property. So it's about perspective. And I think from our standpoint, I've seen you do this very effectively. It's about communicating with your clients and letting them know what's what. I've been accused way too many times of being blunt, but I think, I can candy coat like the best of them, but I think really the hard truth sometimes is the best way to get through to people, because I'm doing them a disservice if I just kind of candy coat what's going on. If I'm saying what they want to hear, that's not really helping them to achieve where they want to go. And so with kid gloves, I can be a little blunt, I guess, just to say, I'm sorry, but you're wrong. This is not how the market is viewing your property. And I get a few groans from that every now and then, but more than not, I think I get people who like the fact that I'm being at least honest with them. Nobody's ever accused me of being dishonest in this business. And I think to me, that's a testament to the way that I treat myself and my clients every day. And you do the same, I know.
Yeah, honesty is the best policy, but also on the other hand, sometimes the truth hurts, and having to deliver the truth to people, sometimes it can be a bitter pill to swallow,
Yeah.
But don't shoot the messenger, right?
Yeah, exactly right. Exactly. You hired me to do the job. Let me help you out and do it the way it needs to be done,
Yeah, right. And I think I've definitely taken a page out of your book for sure. I've always been pretty straightforward with people. I may be a little bit more diplomatic since I've gotten older. I think I've learned to kind of be more receptive of people and what their opinions are, and try to maybe deliver that message in a more polished way, but it's still pretty much straightforward. I've embraced my name quite a bit. So, my name is Frank, and I use that as my tagline. I'll be frank with you, Yep. So I'm Frank, and I'll be frank with you, right?
Right.
So,
right. I love it.
And it comes across in my, my how I go about my marketing, my sales, and meeting with people and things like that. I'm not afraid to be a little bit abrasive and speak the truth and speak my opinion. And sometimes people might not appreciate that, and they might not like me because of it. But I go to bed with a clean conscience, and I feel like it's more of a service to people than, like you said, candy coating or beating around the bush. And people, they need to hear the truth if they're going to make a educated, informed decision about how they're going to go about their business and their assets. They're going to need to know these kinds of things.
Absolutely, and they're the owners, and so they have a different perspective. But we're the guys that are on the street pounding the pavement every day, hearing what's what. And it's incumbent upon us, I think, to really translate that to our clients, let them know, hey, this is how this works. And, you need to be cognizant of the fact that this guy down here is selling for less, more, or whatever the case is, and you're just not competing. And in a sea of other properties, competition is is key. You've got to be at the forefront or you're lost in the ocean, and that's not what you want when you're trying to sell somebody's property.
Yeah, you kind of nailed it right on the head. We touched on retail and the ICSC and all that. I heard some really big news recently about some major retailers are closing their stores. Right, Payless is just they just declared that they're going to be filing bankruptcy second time in 2 years, and they're going to be closing 2,500 stores.
Yeah.
We've got Dick's Sporting Goods is tightening up. We've got a number of retailers, Sears, and a number of others, Carson's. I mean, there's like a lot of these retailers on the chopping block. What do you think? What do you want to share with the regional community, the greater Chicagoland area? How's that affecting them? And then what do you think? What do you think it would mean to them? How should they be strategizing on this change that we see upon us?
Well, I truly believe, and I've seen it enough in my own career, but if you look back at the history of retail, retailers come and go. It's a sad fact. Companies like Sears, who have been able to hold on for over 100 years in business, they are the exception. They are not the norm. And part of it, I think, is somebody taught me once a long time ago that in business, if you're not growing, you're dying. And so if you're not paying attention to what is going on in the marketplace, if you're not competing, if you rest on your laurels, you're dead. You're not going to be in business for very long at all, because somebody is going to figure out a better mousetrap, and they're going to want to run to that better mousetrap. I've got a friend, TJ Banning, who owns a few Rosati's pizzas in the area here. Great guy, great business guy, very smart, very savvy. He has indicated to me that every time a new pizza joint opens up in town, he loses 20% of his business for about 2 months.
Yeah.
Because everybody wants to go and try the new pizza. But eventually, because his product is right, and because he's innovative in the way that he markets, and he's innovative in the way that he presents his products, they always seem to come back to him, and his business thrives. And you can see it in any place you go that he owns. The parking lot's always full. And so that's really the moral of that story, I think, in terms of retail. If you are not willing, if your company is getting too big, and that's what the other thing is, that corporations have a way of killing what's happening on the street inadvertently by their policies, by their internal affairs, whatever that may be. Excuse me, they have a tendency to kind of get in the way. And so I'm a firm believer that you've got to listen to the guys, the men and women in the trenches. You have to hear what they're saying, and you have to adapt to that. Because if you don't, you're going to suffer. You're going to be like the Woolworths or the Carsons, or the Montgomery Wards, all these giants that have disappeared over the course of time because they just did not have a business model that was functioning in the current climate in a proper way for their time. So it's difficult. I think eventually most retailers go out of business. Now, if you're a Walmart who has over 2.1 million employees worldwide, and I know that because of my trivia nights, if you're a company like that, the largest retailer in the history of mankind, you've got a pretty good stronghold. You got a pretty good foothold on what's going on. That's not to say that they could not be toppled by the next Walmart that comes along that finds a better way to do things. But in Walmart's defense, I think they've done a great job of staying innovative. I don't know if you've tried their online grocery shopping, which is you pull right up.
Oh, the
they
pickup.
know that you're there.
Yeah.
The pickup.
They just rolled that out in the last 6 months.
Yeah, it's great. It's fantastic. I've used it a couple of times. I was real sick about a month and a half ago, home with the flu, had no food in the house, begrudged having to go out and even get in the car to go someplace. My wife and I pulled right up, bam, the groceries were there. It was just the simplest process. I loved it. That's the type of innovation that businesses need to keep coming up with in order to stay on the forefront of consumerism,
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty cutthroat. Business in general. You have to adapt or die, essentially.
Yeah.
You need to see what the need is within the marketplace and then fulfill that need. And if you can't do that quicker and better than the next person, then, it's tough luck for you,
Yep, it's true. So true.
Absolutely.
So that's it on the retail front. I think that we've seen in our local marketplace a slowdown in retail leasing. And I think that that's primarily because there was such a glut of spaces just a couple of years ago. And with the strong economy that we have, leasing, a lot of those places have now been leased up, which leaves just a few lingering ones out there. And just like the housing market, which is suffering right now in the Chicagoland area, I think we are expected to be about in the around the 100th or so this year in terms of market wide for production for sales, and that's because there's not a lot of good houses on the market right now. And if they are, they're overpriced, or like we saw yesterday in the article from Crane Chicago Business, if you're in the south suburbs, you're paying 3 times what everybody else is paying in terms of taxes.
Oh my gosh, I know.
Taxes are a real killer in our area, and they stop people from buying. But it's a lack of inventory that is really causing people not to buy, which in turn may spur on more new housing construction. The thing that's holding new housing construction back right now, pure and simple, is the banks. It's ironic. The banks caused the problem 15 years ago, 10 years ago with the housing bubble. And now they're contributing to the problem because of the regulations that they have to adhere to about lending money out. They're afraid, really, to put money out onto the table for would-be developers to create new home construction. And especially in our area, if you take a look, Bart Olson, city administrator for the city of Yorkville, I'm sure talked about this the other day at their State of the City address, that the number of paper lots that were approved but never developed, there's a huge number of those still out there.
Yeah.
And so those being in the position where they're at should be able to be the ones that go the quickest. I know that we've seen some new housing construction. It's always great when you see the semis, rolling down the road with all the construction materials on it, because somebody somewhere is building a new house. And so it's been a great thing to see that happen, but it's still slow. It's still languishing a bit in our area. I think as projects move along very slowly, the banks will start to get more and more active in loaning out that money. But even our company, which has a mortgage division, is very hesitant to loan anything for new construction right now. They're just not seeing the indicators being where they're at. But here, guys like you and I on the front line, we see what's happening. We know what's happening. It's just you gotta wrench that money away from the grip of their hands in order to make something happen. And it's been a little difficult lately.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, yeah, again, which is another reason why I really enjoy being able to have the flexibility to work in any subsegment and not just residential sales.
Yep.
I do a lot more work nowadays with commercial leasing and brokerage and business brokerage, as you've seen. So,
yep.
The banks are only a bit of the problem. There's also all this tight regulation that we have with the states and the counties and all that. I mean, just think about how much it costs to get permits. Think about how much it costs in order to tie into the water and the sewer and the electrical and all that. It's just ridiculous. I've seen that it's almost, in a lot of these projects, it's almost half of the cost of putting up a building, a home.
It's crazy.
It's just permits and, tying in the utilities. It's just ridiculous. I have no idea how it becomes so expensive.
Yeah, a good friend of mine, State Rep Keith Wheeler, in our area, he just posted something on Facebook that I read that I found to be extremely ironic, and that is that basically the state legislature cannot figure out or understand why Illinois is having such a mass exodus of residents, and there's no consensus on what they should do. And it seems so silly to me. It seems like it should be economics 101, that when you overburden and you overtax, you're causing a shutdown. You're making things stop working. And yet I know that there are a need for taxes in the state. There's a need for social services and programs to be maintained, but you're not creating the business climate by threatening more new taxes and raising them significantly with our new governor, who wants to raise the taxes on everyone, basically to pay the bailout for the Chicago pension funds, the school pension funds, which again, you or I didn't cause or create. The local legislature continues just to kind of kick that can down the road. And so it's not helping anybody by not taking a firm stance and getting it done. Well, those taxes, now we're at such a point where the state has been threatened to be turned into a junk bond status because we're just not bringing in the revenue. We're losing revenue. We're losing constituents. We're losing residents. And it's just not a good sign for Illinois at this point, when in fact, because we are literally the Chicagoland area, the hub of the country, we ought to be killing in business. Everything basically comes and goes through Illinois. And that's, all of the intermodal sites, the commerce, the airlines, everything. We should be killing in this state.
It blows my
But
mind.
unfortunately, it's just not with the governmental controls being in the hands of a certain party. It just has been a little slower, and I'm being politically correct here now.
I see what you just did there. Yeah.
Yeah, it's been tough. It's been tough on the citizens of Illinois when we really should be enjoying much better outcome than what we're seeing right now.
Yeah, I mean, you look at a map of the train systems that run through the country, and you can see that there's an epicenter in the center, and that's Chicago. And
Yep.
I mean, basically, the majority of the products and the raw material that goes across the country either starts in Chicago or comes through Chicago at one point. And it's just
Right.
it's unbelievable that we have such a central hub for industry and for transportation, but yet we still have 45,000 people a year leaving this state. It's unbelievable. And it's because of the climate that they're in. People just have no choice but to leave because it's just too expensive for them to stick
We're
around.
just overtaxed.
Especially retirees.
It's a shame.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
And I don't know if you know this, Frank, but in terms of agriculture, we have some of the richest soil in the world right here in Illinois.
Mhm.
Our soil is could be considered the ultimate soil for growing. And so when it comes to housing developments, I don't mind seeing density built into a subdivision. I don't mind. I understand people want their big palatial estate. I get that. I've got a big house myself. I get that. But I'm not opposed to building up and densely in these subdivisions. And a lot of these communities they've got a different sense of what they think should be happening. And we're giving up a lot of our good earth, a lot of our good dirt when we do some of these subdivisions and kind of sprawl them out. And again, being a former developer who has worked on 50 different subdivisions, a lot of them were sprawled out, no doubt about it. That was the time that we lived in. But I think as I've gotten a little bit older, a little bit wiser, I've come to understand too that there's only so much of that earth that exists out here. And while farming has certainly advanced over the last 20, 30 years, I mean, the yield that they can get on an acre now. When I first, where I'm at right now, I've been here for 20 years. When I first moved here, the corn was about a foot apart. Now it's about 3 or 4 inches apart, the stalks. So they're getting a lot more yield. They're able to innovate and that. But what I'm trying to get at is that it just seems to be reactionary half the time. It's not very good planning by our many of our elected officials. I'm hesitant to say leaders because they don't really lead. They work for us.
Yeah, I tend to have to agree with you, especially with some of I know we touched on it before, this whole fight for the $15 minimum wage. That's, just going to be bad, unfortunately, for everybody.
Well, think about it.
It's going to be automation and less people working in general. And
so the guy who owns the burger joint's got to pay his guys $15 an hour. Well, his costs aren't going down. His costs are going up, which means that the price tag on the burger is going to also go up. So it's almost a self-defeating prophecy when you're going to raise the prices for the employees, so too are the prices going to be raised for the goods that they're also going to be buying, whether it's this burger joint or the one that's next door. They're still going to be paying a higher price for that same product. So while I understand that we need to have some balance in terms of how people's wages are earned, there has to be some very careful consideration given to it rather than sort of the knee-jerk reaction that we see because social pressures are being put on our politicians, and the politicians think that they are doing what the masses want, when in fact, they're not very good at listening to what the masses want or what the masses need for that matter, as far as I'm concerned. But don't get me started on politics.
I know, right? Well, as far as I'm just going to touch on it again, as far as I'm concerned, I mean, I think that it'd do a lot more good for people to keep more money in their pocket and do what they want, and then they could go out and spend and do other things, and they'd be able to have a more affordable choices, on their economic needs about, this is where I live, this is the roof under my head, over my head, this is what I'm eating, this is how I'm getting to and from work and stuff like that. They'd be much more able to do that if they could keep a larger percentage of their income rather than having it just dish out for who knows where it goes and whose pockets it goes into before it gets into the services that it gets distributed to. And,
it's interesting how the dollars in the community work, how they get passed around from one business to the next. It really is. I've kind of noticed because of my the DJ stuff that I'm sorry, the trivia stuff that I do.
Yeah.
One place will pay me, and then I'll take that money and I'll go buy some gas with it. I'll go to the grocery store with it, all in the same community. So the dollars are staying there in that community, and it's just interesting when you really think about how those dollars kind of get passed around from spot to spot to
It's the
spot in the
velocity.
community.
Yep.
Yeah. So
Definitely. You touched on the trivia a couple of times. I'm curious to hear more about it. You want to share it with everybody, kind of more about what you do with the trivia and in your what's it, All Pro Entertainment?
Yeah, I've got a company that does. So I went to school for broadcasting. I soon realized that broadcasting was a here today, gone tomorrow sort of job. So if I want to be on the classic rock station as the radio DJ, I am going to be fired tomorrow when they go to a Hispanic or Spanish format, or they go to a Christian format or something. All of a sudden, I'm going to be out of a job. Well, at the time, I had just gotten married, had a son, new house that we had bought. And so I needed to get something that was stable. So I chose real estate. I'm glad that I did. It was a great turnout, or change. But as a result of my going to broadcasting school, I kind of stuck with the little company that I had started to do DJ work for weddings or whatnot, way back when, to kind of pay for my schooling. So after a while, that was paid and that was done. But I kept, getting phone calls and people wanting to do things. So I kept it very quiet in my real estate career. I did not let most people at Inland know that I did any sort of DJ work whatsoever, because I thought that the two, they may look at me a little less professionally if they thought, oh, he's, this kid's over here DJing on the weekends, so he's not really paying attention to real estate. I've always paid attention to real estate, first,
Yeah.
So it pays the bills. But so it's a fun kind of extracurricular thing that I do. And one day I got invited to go with some of the Yorkville folks, the mayor, the state's attorney, a couple of business owners to a Jimmy Buffett concert. And I mentioned to one of them that I could bring some DJ equipment because we were going to have a little, party out in the parking lot before the concert. So I mentioned I could bring some stuff. And so that's when all of a sudden things really kind of opened up for me, because people kind of saw me with my hair down, if you will. And I had much longer hair at the time. And so in that regard, TJ from Rosati's, I mentioned him earlier, he called me one day from Las Vegas and he said, hey, I'm sitting here at this bar and they're doing pub trivia, because I'd love to have you do this at my store in Yorkville. And so he called me back and I said, sure, okay, no problem. He called me back about a week later. He said, are you ready to go? I said, I'm working on it. He called me back another week later. He said, are you working? Are you ready? And I said, I'm working on it. He said, hey, man, I'm serious. I want to do this. And I said, set a date. I'll come up with some sort of program and we'll kick it off. And so 6 years later, I now have 20 bars that we're doing a week. I've got a couple of other radio guys that I know that are doing it for me now as well. And it's been a great opportunity, really, for me, not to put a little extra money in my pocket, but more than that. And I've got people who are putting a little extra money in their pocket, which they're very happy. I've had two different people who read for me say, I'm so glad that I can do this with you because you're paying for my Harley. Every month I'm making these, doing these, send the money right to my Harley. So I'm happy to, again, have an impact on somebody's life that way. But 6 years later, here I am with some 20 different bars. I've had probably close to 40 bars. It's not right for every bar over the course of time. We kind of found that some places are just kind of a shot in a beer place, and they don't want to be, they don't want to listen to my nonsense. But the nice thing about it is it puts me in front of people almost every night. It also feeds my ego, which I have a big one, and it helps me out a little bit to feel loved. And the truth is that just the closing I talked about last week, one of the restaurants and bars that I do trivia at, I helped the owner sell to a new owner. And so that's just one big example of how this has helped. But I've come across and listed so many properties and sold so many properties over the last 6 years from people that I meet. On my scorecards, I put a little advertisement about myself and my company
I've
out
seen
there.
that. Yeah.
So that helps, and that gets the word out, and people know that it's not the only thing that I do,
Mm-hmm.
So anyway, I enjoy it. It's great to be the trivia master. Everybody thinks now that I'm really smart, and that's always nice.
But I
Just have
think
all the answers. Doesn't mean I'm any smarter than they are.
I know, right? A lot of people, they don't really realize how much work that you put in behind the scenes, right? I mean, I see you in the office and you're plugging away. I mean, you have to come up with how many questions a week?
I'm writing 100 questions a week now, on top of trying to keep up with my real estate stuff. So I don't sleep very well. I'll put it that way. There's a lot of sleepless nights that I have where I'm working till 3 o'clock in the morning, uh, trying to catch up on what I've got to get done. But I wouldn't do it if I didn't love it. In all honesty, I think it helps to keep me motivated. I think it helps to keep me moving. And a good friend of mine, who's 85 years old now, explained to me that life is motion, and you got to keep moving,
That's
and you'll keep alive. And so I've kind of taken that to heart, and I think I understand what he meant, but when he says that.
Yep. I know you have a running joke that you always love to use with the trivia and other things, and but you have this fascination with a certain planet. You wanna go on about that?
Yeah. So anyway, the truth is that I discovered after asking one question about the planet Uranus, all the giggles in the room that came out from that, and so now I've probably have written over 100 different trivia questions concerning Uranus, and people, I hate to say it, they love it, and they expect it. They want me to have something.
It's
every
like a
week.
main theme now.
It is. It's become a weird thing. Just on my Facebook feed a couple of days ago, I put down, and it's true, that NASA is thinking about going to Uranus in 2030, and they're planning on probing it deeper than they ever have while looking for gas and heavy elements.
Get out of here.
That's the headline, and those sorts of jokes just go over well.
They're just
when
making it
people
easy
have
on you, right?
Yeah. So anyway, yeah, I've kind of become been known as the Uranus guy, and so interestingly, there is a fudge factory in Uranus, Missouri, and I've had a couple of my folks who play trivia religiously week in, week out, who are driving by, and they've made a special stop just to pick me up a T-shirt or a shot glass or something from the Uranus Fudge Factory. And so, it's fun. I never thought I'd be known as the Uranus guy, but here I am.
That's so funny. Well, hey, we're wrapping up here. We're running a little bit late. Any final words? Any closing statement you'd like to share with everybody?
Well, I would just say that I think the market outlook is good for us. I mean, residential is going to be a little slow for us. I think that the overall conditions of what's happening with the economy are good right now. Yes, there is some fear that we could be looming on another recession. I'm more of an optimist in that regard, that we won't see it as deeply as we did this past time. I'll call that a mini depression, what we just were in,
Yeah.
and are coming out of now. But I would like to say thank you, Frank. You, as always, do a great job for your clients. You've done a great job for our company. It's been my pleasure to work with you and have you on our team.
Well, I really appreciate it. And there is a certain company that's hiring currently, isn't that right?
Certain. I don't.
Isn't there a
Inland
company
Real
that you
Estate.
know of that's hiring right now?
It's on Inland Real Estate Brokerage is looking for good, qualified sales agents. Yes, we are, in fact.
Yeah, that's
Give us a
right.
call. We're at 630-553-3600. And again, we sell it all, and I can certainly help to train somebody who has been in residential but maybe wants to start getting more involved in commercial. You are a shining example of
Yeah.
how quickly you can convert, and so many people are intimidated by it when the numbers, all it really is just the numbers are a little bit bigger and the lingo is a little different, but it's basically the same principle.
Yep, you got it. And yeah, really happy that I was able to triple my business from 17 to 18 by being here and having the flexibility and just the capability of being able to do it all instead of just being pigeonholed into one asset class,
Yep.
So, all right, very good. Well, I appreciate it. And Rich, thank you very, very much for coming on. I really appreciate you coming on and taking your time and kind of just showcasing an inside look to us and our outlook. And I appreciate everybody watching. Again, if you like this, I'd really, really appreciate it. It would really, really help out my channel. If you could do a thumbs up, like the show, make sure to share it. Make sure if you have a comment, something that you thought was funny or interesting, or maybe something we could do a little bit different, a little bit better, I would be very, very happy to hear it. So leave a comment about what you think. Share it with the masses. And if you're new, subscribe. So appreciate it. So thank you very much, everybody. And thank you, Rich. And I hope everybody has a really great weekend. And I'm going to be on a plane off to Colorado here. I'm going to do some snowboarding.
Enjoy yourself. Don't break a leg.
Yeah, right. I'm not quite in show business yet, right? This is just maybe a couple hundred views, watching this right now. So, but maybe when we get into the thousands, if that ever happens, then then you can really say it. You're like, yeah, break a leg, right?
I'm talking about on the ski slopes. Just be careful.
Yeah, well, I'm not going to be doing any crazy stuff like flips or 360s or any of that.
Right.
I'll just be cruising, just taking it easy. So, all right, thanks everybody. Have a good one.
This is Frank, a professional real estate broker and business broker. Frank helps people buy and sell all types of commercial property. He helps business owners find space to lease and helps landlords fill their commercial vacancies. Frank helps business owners evaluate, market, and sell their businesses with or without real estate involved. And he also helps people buy and sell homes. To learn more about Frank and his services, go to frankpetersonbroker.com. And he'll be Frank